What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you, and one that I've been actually kind of anticipating, considering I really enjoyed the last one. So we are going to go over the latest offering from British heavy metal legends Saxon with their new album Hell, Fire, and Damnation. This comes out on the 19th of January on Silver Lining Music. This band formed technically as Saxon in 1978. There were multiple bands before that. In fact, for a short time, they were known as Son of a Bitch, which I think was pretty hilarious. Anyway, they formed in England. This is technically their 25th studio album. I am not counting the Inspirations covers albums, because that would put it up to 27, but that's not their own material. So 25th album of all original material, which is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. Refusing to give up. I admire it. Good job, but 25 albums? When and if we do this discography ranking, and I'm not saying that's coming anytime soon, it's going to take months.
Yes, yes, it will. I was a big fan of their last album, Carpe Diem. I thought that was a good, reinvigorating album for them, because well, they've had a long, pretty solid career. There's definitely, some rough spots in it, but that album really felt like it kind of captured their old spirit again. And quick side note, it was recently Biff Byford's 73rd birthday on January 15th. Happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yeah, way to go on just being fucking metal for that damn long.
Yeah, no kidding. For me with this band, I'll just say it like I've been saying it. Prior to starting Thralls of Metal, a lot of music like this, in fact, most music like this, I had always pushed to the wayside because I wasn't digging the vocals, or there were just certain aspects that I didn't find appealing, and so I never really got into it. Since starting this channel and going through things like Maiden and Priest and Sabbath, the predecessors to the game, I found a new appreciation for music like this. So while I've never sat down and jammed a full Saxon album, it just gave me a whole new take on music like this in general. So it's been a great ride getting to this point.
Yeah, and Saxon, I don't know, I have a huge thing for their earlier stuff. I mean, Wheels of Steel, I think, is an incredible album. Strong Arm of the Law. Denim and Leather's pretty good, too. But, that early NWOBHM sound, I love that sound, and this band still does it well. And, again, I was super stoked to get into this one. But before we even get into the actual songs, we had an intro. And I'm not gonna bitch, which is very surprising because this intro is just an intro. It's, lavish noises and clanging of swords and all that. But
Ominous Doomsday.
It has a special guest. They got Brian Blessed to do a narration, which I love Flash Gordon. That movie is gloriously stupid and looks like it was shot entirely inside of a lava lamp. But Brian Blessed hams up every performance he's in. I forget the name of his character. He had the wings and the beard and the voice. Everything is huge and grand. Ha ha ha. His laugh is amazing. They got him to do the narration to lead into this. And honestly, it's perfect.
And I totally agree. In the beginning, though, it didn't sound like it was going to be him. To be honest, it sounded like they took his voice and ran it through a processor and made him sound like Cthulhu. And I was really disappointed by that.
Yeah, I thought it was dude, they could have done this with anyone's voice.
Yep.
Not Brian's. No, you don't do that to a voice like that. But luckily he comes in and yeah, it's the perfect setup. And then we are on to the title track, and dude, this song whoops ass, right out of the gate.
Yep. I mean, it's Andy Sneap production.
I dog on Andy Sneap. I do, just because he doesn't change the settings very often.
But the mix he gave this record is killer. Killer lead tone, flavorful, crisp, crunchy guitars, big booming drums. Every song sounds huge, and that's such a good thing for this band on this record particularly.
Yeah, and this comes out energetic as hell. You wouldn't guess, at least in terms of the execution and the level of energy in the performance that this band was in their 70s or 60s. Now, by the style of music they're playing, you might guess that because it still has that big classic sound. But in terms of the energy and invigoration, this does not sound like a band in their twilight years. This still sounds like a band that has something to prove. And I love that energy on here.
Yeah, the old folks still have it. I understand that, the young bucks have something going on here, but these guys still brought it, and brought it with, I think, better energy than half of the young people are doing these days.
Songs like the title track, Fire and Steel, Kubla Khan, and the Merchant of Venice, and the last track, Supercharger, are fast, energetic. There's great riff work across the board, and the thing that I really liked about this is these guys are veterans, duh. But they show off that sort of veteran knowledge of songwriting in terms of making sure the hooks really sink in. And, sometimes with older bands, you kind of wonder about the execution. Is the energy still going to be there? And not a moment on here really wanes in energy. It always comes across as they're giving it their all. And props to Biff. Man, Biff sounds great.
Dude, for 73 years old, he sounds like he's not a day over 50. I mean, he belts it out. He hits all the high notes. There's even a couple times where he really hits the high notes, and he does it so well. And again, his delivery, there's such power behind his delivery that's just amazing.
It's very commanding, and with these songs having a lot of epic subject matter, like 1066, it's driven by a thunderous gallop and great chuggy riffs.
That song whoops ass.
He's delivering these, verses with conviction, and it's a whole story about the slaughter of the Saxons. So, I mean, if you're going to tell a battle-ready song that pretty much screams, I want satisfaction through bloodshed and warfare, you have to deliver it like that. And when it comes down to those, very epic choruses and verses, he absolutely nails it. Kubla Khan and the Merchant of Venice has a particularly almost kind of power metal-y chorus, but it captures the vibe, that triumphant, very epic, ascending vibe. You kind of want to get that sort of rousing feel in those songs, and they absolutely nail it.
And not just great dynamic in the songs, but, man, great transitions. Every time they transfer out of the chorus into the bridge or into the lead, it's executed perfectly.
And cleverly, too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily repeat a lot of the same tropes, in terms of that transition. And they'll occasionally just drop out, play a clean bridge, and let the lead kind of come out of the lead harmony occasionally. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get a stomping breakdown that is maybe a little uncharacteristically heavy of this band, on Pirates of the Airwave.
Yeah.
It's, kind of like a heavy Def Leppard song, I'll be honest, but it's the Def Leppard I like, so nothing past Pyromania. It's the rest of those albums are terrible. It's a good flat-out rocker, it screams arena rock, but out of nowhere comes this very heavy breakdown. They start laying on the crash cymbal. It's a little bit more syncopated, and that cleverly builds into the lead. And they do this on every track. Every track has this really cool something they do.
1066 has a super sexy harmony transition into a very sultry lead, and then it gets into a more just straight up heavy metal, classic heavy metal lead. I like how even the leads build.
Yeah, and the leads have a lot of flavor. And there's a good reason for that, because this is the first album they've done with Brian Tatler on lead guitars, and this is Brian Tatler of Diamond Head, their longtime lead guitarist. He now joins with Doug Scard on lead guitar, and they go back and forth, and I absolutely love the lead work on here. Again, the lead tone cuts through so damn well, and it's a really awesome tone, but it's what they're playing. You can definitely tell they're old school.
Yep.
It's very melodic, but it's the fun little tags they put in there. The leads complement the songs really well. They don't feel very showboaty, despite them actually kind of just trading off quite often.
And it's cool when they trade off, because their lead tones are just ever so slightly different to where you can tell it's someone different playing it. So, everybody gets showcased.
Yeah, as much as this has, very slick modern production, it has a lot of the classic tropes on display and little subtle nods to it all over the place. And one of my favorites in terms of just classic heavy metal is building a song around just huge hooks. Madame Guillotine might be one of the catchiest songs on this album. Honestly, it's very anthemic, and the hook is prevalent throughout the entire song. That main riff, it leads in with a cool isolated bass. It kind of stomps in, builds it up, and they're excellent about building tension here. And then once that riff hits, dude, that's just instantly catchy.
Yeah, that big chuggy riff with the staccato melody on top of it, it'll hook you right in the ear and then not let go.
And then the chorus hits, and it's absolutely fantastic. Like, it's honestly one of my favorite choruses on this entire album, and that's saying something because I think they do an excellent job with choruses and just in terms of, like, laying on a solid hook.
In that song, though, in Madame Guillotine specifically, it's the vocal harmony that really sets it off.
And while I say, like, a good portion of this definitely has that more epic, triumphant, sort of like just fun vibe of classic heavy metal, it does get a little bit darker on here, Witches of Salem. The lead into that has almost kind of like a classic Candlemass sort of riff. Like, it's very doom-laden. You have women screaming in the background. It has a more sinister, dark energy. Great riff work on this song. Like, it's, again, instantly hooky, but hooky in a different way. But the thing that I noticed that really stood out, and it kind of plays off the, you know, the old dog's new tricks thing, I guess. There's a tremolo riff that is worked in there, and it's worked in there in their own way. It kind of comes on the pre-chorus, and it does like sort of an ascending run. It has, like, again, that dark, sinister vibe, but when they come out of it, they're still playing kind of the same melody, but it's that classic heavy metal epicness.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It takes it more from like a classic sound to like a full-blown heavy metal sound.
Yeah, and that is something relatively new for this band, like in terms of like embracing like a way more heavy style, because I mean that is definitely rooted in more thrash and death metal, which is just kind of different for them. Like, there were some heavier moments on Carpe Diem that I thought, you know, were a little uncharacteristic of them, but they were employed well. This one, it really just kind of pops out there. It's like, dude, that is notably darker, and it's cool to see an older band, you know, not be afraid to like implement some different stuff. But at its core, like, this is still 100% them. Like, this doesn't feel like they're trying to, like, we're a modern hip band and, you know, we're going to start using modern slang now and just make sure all of our interviews are cringeworthy. That's not this band.
And at this point in the game, if you're not already really in love with listening to this record, it bookends super nicely. The last song, Supercharger, which Fret Not is not a Machine Head cover, thank God. It's big, it's riffy, but the neat thing is it takes the album out the same way it came in.
Yeah.
Like, it just leaves you with a little bit of extra, like, bam, here we are, enjoy yourselves, have a good night.
Yeah, it's got that classic heavy metal gallop. The riff is just catchier than hell, but it's like that very early NWOBHM. Like, honestly, it's almost kind of a throwback to like their very early albums, and I love the fact that it ends on a big finish.
Yep,
like,
big rock star ending.
They ended it pretty much like it was a live show, and that just kind of encapsulates the whole vibe of this. It has just, you know, pure nostalgic energy for all the old fans, but for someone that is relatively new to like classic heavy metal, I think this is a good representation of it.
And I would be that person, to be honest, relatively new to classic heavy metal. You know, the death metal was such a big thing, and it still is for me. But I mean, my introduction to classic heavy metal has been only within the last couple of years, pretty much since, you know, becoming serious about Thralls of Metal. So like, this is great to me.
A lot of this honestly kind of has a Firepower sort of vibe, like that, again, very reinvigorated old school band that, well, Andy Sneap was heavily involved in too. That's weird. Not really. In terms of any negatives on here, I'd be hard pressed to find like any big ones, anything that really sidelines this album. The only song on here that I thought was, oh, it's not terrible, it's just a little goofy, was weirdly one of the lead-off singles. There's Something in Roswell. It's probably aliens, and that is the song itself. It's kind of tinfoil hat rock.
Right?
It's not really a bad song. Like, it's kind of a mid-tempo rocker, much like, you know, Madame Guillotine and Pirates of the Airwaves, but it just comes across as like a little bit more silly.
It's cheesy, but at the same time, it's not a bad song. Like, I wouldn't turn it off. To tell you the truth, I'm going to listen to this record again from start to finish, and it's going to be just as good as it was the first time. It's not a bad song, it's just cheese.
Yeah, it kind of has like a fun, like, I don't know, like sleazy rock swagger. There's some more bluesy riffs to it. The song itself, I think, is just pretty decent. It's just the, you know, the lyrics I thought were probably the few on here that kind of just missed the mark. Or
Storm the gates.
Or they hit the mark, and I just really wasn't there. I'd be the person trying to talk people out of storming the gates. Like, don't do it. They'll just shoot you.
You're gonna die.
Like, with real bullets.
Right.
Like, you know, they're not gonna shoot blanks at you or paintball guns. Like, yeah, no, they're going for center mass. But yeah, overall, I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 stars. Bordering on a 4.5. I feel like this could really grow on me, and I really like the last one, but I think this is better. This just kind of has a solid energy to it. The riffs are great. The vocals are great. Like, everything on here is executed at such a high level for a band that has been around for as long as they have. And I really like this second wind that this band has gotten here lately, because they're coming out with some really solid music. Like, this is excellent in terms of like representing classic heavy metal. There's just enough modern touches on here too to kind of keep it a little bit fresh instead of like just repeating past glories. This album just rocks. Flat out, I think the riff work is excellent. Brian was an excellent addition on here. The dual leads on here are fantastic. It's loaded with rip and harmonies. This is just great heavy metal. Like, you will definitely sing along to this, bang your head. And honestly, this is something I could see like the Young Them playing in my head. Like, this has that old school energy to it that is, I don't know, like sort of like an Age of Innocence thing. Back before we were talking about Satan all the time and zombies and doing horrible things to corpses. Like, no, we're talking about driving fast and maybe flipping the bird to a cop or something like that.
Maybe knocking a mailbox off.
Yeah. Innocent stuff. But yeah, if you're a big fan of Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, I mean, again, this band has been around forever. I could just say if you're a fan of Saxon, you should definitely check this out. I think this is an absolutely awesome album.
Yeah, I fully agree with Nick. I am at a 4, could be 4.5. Like, I'm right in between. We talked about this last night. If we had a different rating system where we had quarters or whatever, this would be that. But a definite solid 4. This is a great record. To be honest, I couldn't wait to see what was next. Like, every song was entertaining. The riff work is amazing. The lead work is so tastefully done and really fits well to the song. The harmonies are great. The vocals are killer. And when they do vocal harmonies, it's even better. Great transitions, where they put the transitions and how they did it to lead into the next part. Everything was executed perfectly. Love the lead works, love the layering of sound. It's got such big sound to it. And as much as Andy Sneap may be a one-trick pony on his mix, this is the mix that this record needed. I think this is how they wanted it to be heard. It's just big and fat.
I mean, admittedly, Andy's one setting is pretty good. So,
Good builds, lots of lead play, great rhythm accents. Like, the band is firing on all cylinders. And now, granted, although I haven't heard much Saxon, it doesn't matter. This is a good record. I really enjoyed it. Much like we said, if you enjoy Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Black Sabbath or any of the stuff that helped originate this sound, you're gonna really like this. I would definitely recommend checking it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel. But if you are looking for Thralls of Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts. We have old shirts that are at a discounted price. We have brand new shirts. We also have hats, too, so if you're looking for any of that stuff, that is where to find it.
Last but not least, tons of stuff going on here at Thralls of Metal. We've got tons of reviews. We're very early in the new year, so tons of stuff coming out. Albums I definitely can't wait for. Nick's got his States of Metal. What's John Jamming is returning. We have retro reviews going on now. We have album rankings. Black Dahlia Murder's coming. Meshuggah's after that. Tons of stuff going on. Mostly, though, we do it because of you guys. Thank you all for continuing to support Thralls of Metal and what we do. It's been an honor to serve you, so to speak. As far as what we do here, we just couldn't do it without you. We thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely roll, flat out. This has been one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life, which says a lot about my life. But no, it's absolutely amazing. I look forward to doing this stuff all the time and run into you guys at shows and such. So yeah, I'm going to give you one more big thank you because you guys deserve it, and we will catch you later.